All right. So originally, I'm from New York City, born and raised in Queens, New York, Cambria Heights. I was born into a house full of music. My dad, he was a musician, played with various Afro-Cuban groups, reggae bands. And then my uncle, a rapper, DJ, worked with various reggae artists and hip hop artists as well. I remember at the age of 5, I used to be on the school bus and I was just beatboxing. I'd be like, I wasn't that advanced as I am now, but back then I used to do it like crazy. I also used to do it in school. I started doing it more in school when I got to probably junior high school. But I remember there was this one time where I want to say lunch was finishing or ending or something like that. And there were these two guys and they were just there battling. And I started beatboxing, and they gave me my props and all that. But my first time doing music was beatboxing. So I had asked my dad to get me a pair of drums, right? To get me a drum set, actually. And I came down the stairs Christmas Day. This was 2000, and I saw the sticks, and I'm like, "Yo, where's the set?" So I decided to go downstairs. I was a little bit disappointed. Then I go downstairs to the basement, and boom, the whole set was there. I'm talking about the tom toms and the snare, right? I'm not sure if we had the hi hat or cymbals yet. The only thing we had at the time were the cymbals. So my dad was like, "Listen, you can practice with this. We'll get the cymbals later on in a few months." It took me maybe about probably 5 or 6 months to become a little bit proficient. But the number one thing he used to tell me was, "Yo, you got to hit it in the pocket." So I started off doing beatboxing. Then I started to develop my skills as a musician, as a drummer. I didn't really start to play in any band until I got to seventh grade, and I was in Mr. Arnold's band class. And I think that was the first and last time I was ever in a band class at all. Eighth grade, I don't know what happened. I remember I was in eighth grade and I wrote this song about this girl that I really liked, right? The name of the song is called Girl, I Can't Get You Off of My Mind. I remember that day, I had a day off from school. One of my dad's friends came, was hanging out with him. And then we started to record the song. The guy laid down an ill bass line, right? Laid down the bass line. And then after that, we recorded the song. Now, there was another version, a somewhat of a reggae version that we recorded, and this time this was produced by my dad. I had the tape and I taped over it. I think I taped over some, TV themes or something like that. I'm mad I still did that. But anyway, that was my first time recording. The next time I recorded was at Six Flags. I think the name of the song was "I Believe I Can Fly." And my dad was doing background vocals, and I'm like, "Yo, just let me sing by myself." I remember when I got to 10th grade, I started learning how to produce. So I remember he had a keyboard. My dad had a keyboard in the basement. It was a Korg Karma workstation, and it took floppy disk. So from there, I learned how to produce beats. Right, I learned how to produce beats, and from 2006 to about 2012, I was making beats, and that's until a friend showed me how to use Reason on a computer. From there, I stopped making beats on that system. I remember when I was in 12th grade, I used to try to rap and I wasn't that great at it, right? I used to rhyme every word with understand, understand, and all this stuff. And so it was something that happened. So I graduated high school, you know what I mean? And I went into college. When I was in probably my second month of college, I ended up meeting up a friend of mine that I knew from 10th grade. And he told me, like, "Yo, I go here, like, if you want, I got a studio, you can come by and record." Because I remember just 2 years prior, I was telling him, like, "Yo, let's start a group." It was me and a couple of other friends, let's try to rap. Nothing ever happened. He ended up leaving school like 2 months into the beginning of the semester in 10th grade. And, no, in 11th grade. And after that, I ain't seen him again until I started college. So I remember in between classes, I started writing songs, right? And everything just came to me. Like, I started thinking about everything was just poetry, you know what I mean? And I really had to thank my English teacher, Mr. Nasa, because I honestly believe it was because of him that not only did my music improve, but now I was actually able to write. So shout out to him. Like, to me, I think he's the only one that ever made literature exciting. That's just me personally. So I started writing, I started doing that, and I was still producing beats on the Karma workstation around this time. I remember every day I would come home from school and I would make a little beat here and there. You know what I mean? And it was a cool experience. I'm not gonna lie to you. Just sitting down, watching TV, making beats. It was fun. Once I started to get into the classes for my major, because my major was music electronic technology, later on renamed to music production. So anyway, when that happened, you know, all of these classes, everything becomes technical, what's bi-directional, what's a dynamic microphone, what's cardioid, and you start learning all these terms. And I'm like, whoa, whoa, slow down, slow down. But this really helped me when it came to the recording process, right? Because every time that we went into the studio, every time we went into one of the music labs, right? Me and my boy, um, we would be testing out everything, you know what I mean? Making sure that, we know how to use Expand. If you don't know what Expand is, go to Pro Tools. And Pro Tools, basically Expand is one of those plugins that has a whole bunch of instruments, bass, keyboard, piano, whatever, right? So you can go in there, you can do your thing. So anyway, with that, I remember when the second semester finished, we made our song or whatever, submitted it, as our project, our final project. And the name of the class was called ME 250. You know what I mean? And it was cool. After that, I remember I had classes ME 270, uh, ME 281, ME 276, ME 251. And a lot of these classes were basically just talking about the recording process, Murphy's Law, whatever goes wrong will go wrong. So it was a lot of different stuff. Originally, when I started writing music, like writing lyrics, I didn't know the difference between 16 bars and 8 bars because I would write a 52-bar verse and then after that the chorus would come. That's how I used to work with my music. So that's how I used to work with my music. I would be writing and stuff. I would do beats at home. At this time, I didn't really have what you would call a updated sort of studio in the crib, but later on, my dad ended up getting a deal. You know, an engineer he was working with ended up moving, and so he gave him his computer, and so there we had a Mac. I learned how to record on it, Pro Tools. I learned how to use Reason. I learned how to make beats on there. So I moved from one piece of equipment to another. And by the time that I graduated, and I just went in. I remember one year I did 4 mixtapes back to back. I was just doing music like crazy. You know what I mean? And my production skills, it wasn't the greatest. It wasn't 100. It wasn't 100%, but it started to get better and better and better and better each and every time. I've come across a lot of different people. I've worked with Ill Nature, Achilles the Reaper, um, Cuban Kid, just a lot of different people. I was in this group called Basic Flow, which was basically, it was a group of musicians who sometimes doubled as singers. So if one guy played drums, another guy played keys, and then that same guy that played keys also played drums as well. So these guys were multi-instrumentalists. That was back in 2013, and that was a great experience. A little bit of ups and downs here and there, but that's what you always have with every group. you know I remember in 2012 I started working with Ill Nature, and we began working on our debut mixtape, self-titled Queen's Regime. And literally, we've been working together for the past, boy, I'm trying to think. I think we've been working on music since 2011. So it might be for the past 12 years, we've been doing music all together. You know what I mean? Um, I've produced a few joints for him. He's produced some tracks for me. You know what I mean? If you go to Facebook right now, you can check out our page. We actually have a project that's out on streaming services right now. It's called From the Heart EP. And that was a labor of love. Me and him, we both worked on that joint for I don't know how many months. He's got some tracks that he produced. I have some tracks that I've produced. It's an amazing project. So if you go on YouTube or any other streaming platform, just type in Queen's Regime from the Heart EP. We also he also did a music video for our single Two Stops, you know, and that was directed by the great Kareen. You know what I mean? Shout out to you. You know, Invisible Imagery Films, that's the name of her company, did her thing on that video shoot. We shot the video right in Jamaica, Queens. You know what I mean? This is back in 2021. This was back when COVID was still heavy around. You know what I mean? But it was a great experience. You know what I mean? And then I released my debut album, By Any Means, just last year. And I'm telling you, this project, I was done with the project around 2020, but it was just, I got it, I finished mixing it around 2021. The only issue was that I didn't make the cover. I hadn't got that done yet. I was dealing with work. So I was just sitting on this project for a total of 2 years. It was supposed to be released in September of 2021, then 2022. And then I said, yo, I can't keep this shelf no more. What am I doing? You know, sometimes you have to make priority for certain things. Let me tell you about singing. Singing, I get very nervous when I sing. And the only reason why is because I don't practice like that. I'm not a singer like that. Like, unlike the rapping, I don't do singing like 24/7. You know, the rapping, um, there were times I would just come home from work and I would be on the computer and I'm typing out lyrics. And then after that, there are some Saturday nights I was in the studio working on beats. Things have kind of slowed down a little bit. Today, had the day off, so I decided, yo, let me go downstairs, let me go and do something, mess around a little bit. And I ended up creating some nice joints, you know what I mean? Really, it's beautiful, all the things that I've learned. Like, let me tell you something. If I didn't go to school and I didn't learn how to do engineering, it probably would be trial and error. But I can guarantee you, I think the music would be totally different. I've learned so much about myself through my music. I've learned so much about myself through my mixing style and my techniques, you know? Like, for example, the way that I mixed on Pro Tools is not the same way that I mix on Logic, and it's not the same way that I mix in Reason. All three of those mixes are going to sound very differently. And it's usually because of the digital audio workstation and how it works out. So, you know, um, but it's amazing what I've been able to churn out. And when I listen to my material from 10 years ago, I'm like, yo, this, like, if this was mixed a little bit better, you know, I could have released this. And I remember back in 2014, I wanted to release my music on not social media. Obviously, you guys have seen it on social media. I wanted to digitally release my music, but I didn't understand how streaming worked and how am I going to upload this, and I need this UPC code and all that stuff. But things became a little bit easier now that I'm older. You know, I got a better understanding of downloading and, you know, uploading music to the server and all that. You know, I remember before I learned how to upload music to streaming services, I was copywriting my songs. Like, I started copywriting since 2012, and that was a long process. Back then, I could pay about $35 and upload almost 100 beats. Now it's different. Now there's a limit. Now you can only upload 10. And this was from the website copyright.gov. You know, anything that has to do with music, it was a lot of trial and error, you know. So I mastered, in terms of beat production, I mastered the Karma workstation, I mastered Reason, and then I mastered also Akai. What I did with the Akai machine in the summer of 2017, I remember I had left my job, things were a little bit stressful. I started messing around with that. And what I did was I started chopping up samples on the Akai. And I realized it was much easier to do the beats. So what I did was I would chop up the samples and then I would just put those samples into Reason. And the same way that I sequenced everything is exactly how all of the tracks came out. You know, it's amazing to see what you can come up with when you are pushed to the limits. I remember a couple of years before that, like 2013, I was trying to learn how to do those exact same beats, and I couldn't figure it out. But a couple of years after, I learned, and I'm like, okay, this is not so hard. Just chop this, truncate this, and do that stuff. And here's the thing, right? The Akai gives you a different sound than Pro Tools, Logic, or Reason. It's nostalgic. I mean, if you want to know what Pete Rock uses, that is his main go-to, you know. But man, like, you would not believe. I originally recorded that project in 2014. I'm gonna tell you how it came about. So I remember um, I went to the I went to the New Eurekan Poetry Cafe in Manhattan. I remember I met a rapper by the name of Paranormal, and then I met a couple of other rappers there, Iodele, and then Marv Kanan. And there were some other people that I worked with, you know, um, M Solo, Conscious Braun. Matter of fact, let me tell you the whole story. So basically, there were some people that were supposed to be on the project that ended up not being on the project, and I had to change things. So a lot of beats that I ended up doing did not get used. I remember I had a beat called "The Drums," had to shelve it. There was one song called "Green Lines" that I produced, right? And I didn't put it on the track listing because the person that did the song, I told him like, "Yo, this rap is three verses." They told me, "Yo, I'm a three-verse rapper." I'm like, "Okay, so I'm not putting this on there." I shelved it. I ended up releasing it as a single about a year later via SoundCloud. So basically, the tracks on there are not too bad. One track I ended up having to leave out of for streaming purposes because the individual that I went to talk to about it, now it's my beat. They said, "Oh, I don't want the song released or whatever." Mind you, I own the rights to the beat, but they're his lyrics, so I respected. I was like, "All right, no problem." If you go right now and you listen to Universal Boombox on streaming services, the track Recalculate is not on there. However, it's on my YouTube channel, Gabriel Daniels Productions. So you can go and check it out there. But that track is not on streaming at all. You cannot find it. Everything else you can find except for that track. So basically, um, I had SM Productions master the album, and then I had Cuban Kid Photos do the album artwork. You know what I mean? And that for me was just amazing. You know, this kid at the time, Cuban Kid, was probably no more than, I want to say, maybe 12 years old when he did the cover. And I had him do some additional covers as well for me. But yeah, like, this kid was amazing when it came to editing. I think he used to use GIMP. That was the joint that he used to use to edit the album covers and stuff like that. So that project is very important to me because it's not only showcasing my skill as a rapper, but more overall, it's showcasing my skills as a producer. It is one of the first projects that I released where it wasn't just about me rapping. Like, these are tracks that I produced, except for one particular track that's on there that's not mine, that's owned by my cousin. He got it from another producer, but everything else on there is pretty much mine. You know, so I'm proud to say like, yo, these are the tracks that I produced. These are the rappers that rapped over it. Some people I'm still in contact with, others not so much, but it was a great experience, you know? So I originally, in my studio, I mixed the tracks, and then I had my friend master the tracks. And I think of a lot of the tracks that were left out, you know, where people were either supposed to come back to the studio and finish the verse, or some just didn't want to finish it at all. And I'm just like, man. So I have a lot of unreleased material that I want to show. As a matter of fact, there are two beats that are on there that are on the actual album that are used as that are used, I guess, on the skit tracks, right? Or interludes, as you would call them. But these tracks were originally supposed to be people rapping on it, but things happen. I remember one person was supposed to come up to New York. They weren't able to, and I was like, all right, don't worry about it. It is what it is. You know, almost all of my projects, I try to say something important. I try to put something important in the music. I remember There's a track on the album called Outcry, and I wanted one of my friends to sing on it. After I produced the beat, right, he says, yo, there needs to be more instruments on it. I was like, what are you talking about? Yeah, there needs to be more instruments on the track. It doesn't have enough instruments. I was like, all right. So he was out, and the thing is, dude has an amazing voice, and I really wanted him on the track. I remember probably about maybe 2 or 3 years later, once again, I had a beat. He was like, yo, it needs more instruments on it. I was like, yo, you know what? Forget it. That's it. I'm not doing this no more. You know what I mean? Like, but now that I'm older and I've grown more mature in terms of music production, when someone tells me like, yo, I think you should add a little bit more here, I'm more inclined to listen to it instead of being like, yeah, whatever. Because look, if someone's gonna work with you, it could be your track or their track. You have to make sure that whatever it is that you're producing or whatever it is that you're putting out there is top notch, you know, and you got to give it your all. So nowadays, as I'm looking at my production skills from 10 years ago to now, I have vastly improved. Another thing, I got to shout out my cousin Tico because he really put me on the game. You know what I mean? And I say that because at one point, I just had a lot of beats and everything was repetition. I didn't have breakdowns or anything, you know, and he showed me like, yo, you don't have to do your beats like that. Like, if you're going to do beats, have the drums on separate tracks so that you can mix them properly. Because what I used to do was I used to do drums all on one track and I used to be like, yo, it's all right. But now, as I looked at it, I was like, yo, you know what? He makes a good point. So 2017 is when I started taking that initiative. And I listened to some of the beats that were unfinished that I never went back to. And a lot of them, I'll be honest, some of the beats were trash. I didn't really like how it came out. There was no idea there. It was just me trying to churn out something. But now, obviously, things are better. And I'm looking at my production skills and I'm like, yo, I'm going up there. You know what I mean? So it's a beautiful thing. So I can say that I'm very, very proud of myself and just what I've been able to do with my music and the people that inspire. Some people tell me like, yo, man, I love what you put out there. Like, yo, keep doing your thing. Here's a funny thing. I forgot to tell you guys, right? You guys have seen me do all these interviews, right? But I never told you how I actually got into photography. It's really funny. All right, so I remember, and this has to be about 7 years ago, roughly 7 years ago. I remember I had just bought a little Canon camera, a little red joint. This right here, this little Canon pocket camera. I remember one year I was at a church service, and it was a special service when, you know, all the churches in Queens line up together, you know, get together. So I videotaped a few of the I guess you would call them musical performances. I don't really like to call it that because it's not a performance. It's just ministering a song, right? So I went and I recorded that. I put it up on my Facebook. All of a sudden, people are sharing the videos and it's getting moderate views here and there. After that, I was like, yo, maybe I should start doing videos more often. So I remember I went to CBL. I ended up taking this little camera with me, made a little video. Video was probably like maybe 30 minutes or so, videotaped some stuff there, and I did my thing. The next year, I went and I got myself a Nikon camera. And from there, I bought a lot of equipment, right? I bought lights. I bought like this light that you see right here. I bought lights. I bought trying to think of something else. I bought a lot of stuff. Let's just say that. And I started doing videos. My first major video where everything was high in quality. It didn't really come out too good because I didn't know about the lighting or the settings or anything like that. But the next year, I got better. So 2018, trial and error. 2019, things got better. Two different services that I filmed with my camera. And I threw them up on my YouTube channel. And literally, it came out amazing. You know, then I started videotaping little small church services. I remember the church where I played drums at, um, they were having a youth day. So I decided, yo, I'm gonna go and bring my camera. And I did. And then I remember there was a music day at the same church, probably um, I want to say the same year, if not the same year, maybe a year apart. And I filmed two different services, one for the morning and one for the evening. And I ended up editing those videos, and I was so proud of myself. Like, and here's the thing, people started looking at the videos on YouTube. So some of my videos have like 300, 200. One video has about 1,000 views. And I was like, yo, and that makes me real proud. So imagine, from someone encouraging me or saying thank you for me shooting small videos on this, to graduating to a Nikon camera, DSLR, and just doing videos every year. You know what I mean? So that's another aspect of my life. I also do videos as well. I did one music video. It came out okay. I didn't really like the way that it turned out, but I'm pretty sure that if I went to go do another one, it would probably be better. It's just an amazing feeling for people to see your pictures or your videos and actually be like, yo, I like what you're doing. I remember there were times where, matter of fact, one person told me like, yo, like, I like what you're doing on your YouTube video, on your YouTube channel. I've seen your videos, like, keep on doing it. That encourages me so much. You know what I mean? Because I'm not that type of guy. Like, I'm not professional guy to the point where, I'm taking professional photos for people here or there, but people notice. They see exactly what it is that I'm doing, and they're giving me my props. So that's pretty much everything about me. I love to do music. I love to do photography. I love to do videos. You know what I mean? The next thing that I want to do is I want to produce music for television, movies, big motion picture films. Hopefully that will happen. Matter of fact, not hopefully, it will happen. It definitely will happen. I just gotta keep on pushing and doing my thing and being positive. Well, anyway, I want to thank you guys for joining me for this special video. I know you guys don't really see me do a lot of interviews anymore, but I figured since it's a brand new year, I do one of myself and let you guys in and see exactly what it is that I do, you know. Anyway, I'm out. Peace.